So man, if you guys thought that the Sword of the Berserk title last week was decent, you guys haven't seen anything yet. Like I said, we are actually going to review Berserk for the PS2. Now the funny thing is, the developers in the previous game have really upped their game in every aspect. The music, the gameplay, everything, the story, the cutscenes, the animation. Oh god, it's just... But I'm telling you guys, if you haven't played this, I would highly recommend it. If you haven't seen my review for Sword of the Berserk, I'd recommend you check it out. That way it gives you a comparison of what you're getting from that title compared to this. So like always, we should always look at a little intro of the game, get you guys a little overview of what's going to be happening. So this is Berserk, Millenium Falcon Arc, Holy Chapter of the Demon War for PS2. Berserk Millenium Falcon Arc, Chapter of the Holy Demon War is a sequel to Sword of the Berserk and was released October 7, 2004, developed by Yuki Media Creations and published by Sammy Corporations. Like you would have guessed, this is the Japanese-only title which has never seen the light of day in the States, but has definitely gained tons of notoriety by the Berserk community for its fantastic gameplay and cutscenes, which frankly look better than the 2016 graphics. Oops. Set right after the events of Sword of the Berserk, from volume 22 to 27, where Guts meets his main party, Farnese, Serpico, Isidro, and Shirake, up to where he dons the Berserker armor, the game has a surprising amount of content and revisions that truly make this the definitive Berserk experience on console. The original Dreamcast Berserk was a step in the right direction, however it clearly had some problems due to hardware limitation, and being the first of its kind. It's been 5 years since the release of the Dreamcast version, and the developers clearly have learned and improved on every aspect of the game. Like before, Guts still has the same arsenal of weapons, the incredible Dragon Slayer, along with his arm cannon, crossbow, and pocket bombs like before, with the inclusion of beefed up power thanks to the PS2. The button layout is a little bit different this time, with L1 and L2 allowing you to cycle through your arsenal, with R1 as a single strike button, and R2 triggering your rage system. Unlike the previous title which activates when the bar is full, this can be activated at any time with a time limit of 8 seconds. Similar to its counterpart, it runs on a level design, taking you from one level to the next. However, these levels feel a lot larger than we are used to. Perhaps a little too large? Which we come to one fundamental problem of the game, where the maps feel too large, asking you to go through fetch quests to artificially lengthen the game, a mechanic which has never appealed to me by any means. A level up system is introduced in the game, with enemies dropping EXP, allowing you to spend points at either the end of the level or at random save points scattered throughout the area. And even the save system has been nicely overhauled, saving after end levels and of course at save points. During the save menu at each point, you can take some downtime to read up the lore of the series or take a gander at the detail of the character models and enemy beastry. Overall, the improvements are nothing but refined, and I cannot give any more love to the developers for giving such fantastic improvements, rendering the previous obsolete. The changes between the Dreamcast and PS2 are really night and day. If you saw my last Why Did We Forget for Berserk, the character models have little details aside from Guts, with character animations that only can do the robot, but with the power of the PS2, an incredible amount of detail and animation has been put into each character. The first being Guts himself, who actually looks like Guts instead of a melted Hershey's chocolate bar. The second being the game uses motion capture for its cutscenes, which looks absolutely exquisite, giving each character and movement raw motion and realism the original title severely lacked. Combined with the animation of Guts' attacks, and you can see why Guts really lives up to his name. The way he drags his sword in anger, swings it against Zod in pure distress, or reluctantly attacks on his comrades. His robust and beautiful animations flow in such an incredible way few PS2 titles can muster. Funny enough, when I began playing Berserk, I had my spine chilling the entire time due to the music, and gave huge praise to Susumu Hirasawa for making the soundtrack. But it was my disbelief that he only created 2 of the songs in the game, Sign 1 and 2. To an even bigger surprise, a new team over at Sound Arms with composer Shinya Chikamori, Hiroshi Watanabe, Yasushi Hasegawa, and Tomoyo Nishimoto. And let me tell you guys, this soundtrack is rather unbelievable and one of the most haunting pieces of music, rivaling many survival horror games. And I'm not even kidding, just take a gander at the freaking menu select screen. For such an unknown set of composers, they have not only nailed the aesthetic and tone of Berserk, but essentially evolved it to another level. So let's get one thing out of the way for pricing. Generally, when you buy import games, they are either really expensive or really cheap, but the hurdle of reading kanji or Japanese, or even playing the consoles, are a huge challenge for most gamers. Thankfully, there are ways to alleviate that for Berserk. The cost of the title ranges from about 15 minimum to 25 for a beautiful copy, and personally, I picked mine from Mandarake in Kyoto, Japan last year. Like I said before, just because it's cheap doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Unfortunately, the PS2 is region locked, meaning no imports can natively play on the console without modding, but there are 2 ways to solve this. Of course, the first is modding the console, as there are multiple ways to do it, but I won't get into that. The second, which is the way I used to record gameplay, was to play them on an emulator. Now, I'm not a fan of it, but it gets the job done running at a decent frame rate on my very old 1st gen i5 processor, but it's still in Japanese and cannot be played in English. Well, the workaround for this is to rip the ISO from your copy and combine it with the English patch courtesy of Berserk Darkness. The link will be down below, and apply it to the ISO, making sure both the patch and the ISO are the same version. The patch ISO can either be burned onto a DVD to be played on a region-free or modded PS2, or played straight up off of the emulator. So how could the world that loves Berserk so much so unfortunately forget such a fantastic title? It all begins with the franchise itself. By the time 2004 rolled in, anime slowly but surely started to etch themselves into a new generation of anime lovers with the help of Toonami. Like mentioned in my Ghost in the Shell PS2 review, many people were exposed to brand new forms of anime, and in contrast, Berserk, while being a well-selling series in Japan, hasn't gained the notoriety it really deserved. This in turn warranted the game to stay in its birthplace, with an import copy being the only play to play the sucker. If Berserk was such a niche series, could you even imagine how it was years back when anime was at an infancy stage in the States? But now you know what to expect from the title, and while somewhat of a hassle to obtain or even play, it's an unforgettable title with some minor nitpicks, but nonetheless a true classic in the PS2 library, and one I would recommend both anime fans and non-fans alike to try. And what a phenomenal title. Seriously, it's kind of sad that we didn't really get this in the States just because it's beautifully well done. And I mean, look at that. Let me show you this. Just look how awesome this is. Even the CD has a beautiful pink hue, and if you just kind of move it around, you could actually see the Berserker armor on it. Just the detail that actually went into this, everything is just a fantastic title. But of course, I hope you guys know the other 2 Berserk titles. This will prepare you for the Berserk Musou game that's actually coming out next week, I'm assuming from today's video. So of course, thank you guys so much for checking out my video today. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. And of course, look at my other previous videos if you haven't seen them. I'll put them at the end of the video so you can check them out. So thank you guys, seriously. I'm gonna see you next time.